People think of Dudley Moore as a comedian and a film star. And, of course, he is those things, but I think of Dudley as a quite brilliant composer. I, of course, like everyone else, adored him when Beyond the Fringe was on, and then suddenly a wonderful woman who ran a ballet company commissioned the two of us, which we could never understand why she chose us, but commissioned the two of us to do a ballet together. And we met, and we liked the idea, and I said I wanted it to be a jazz ballet, which of course really in a way was obvious with Dudley, except Dudley is a very fine classical composer as well. And we did a jazz version of The Owl and the Pussycat, which went reasonably well. And we formed a friendship, and it was great fun working with him. I think Dudley could be described as a reluctant composer. And I remember that I sussed this out after a while because he's such a brilliant performer that when he actually composes, it comes out perfectly the first time, then he can't always capture it. And there was one wondrous time when we were really up against it for a deadline, and he came in and he sat on his piano stool and he put his hands over the keys, and then he looked up with that adorable face of his and says, "Can't we go to the pictures?"
Composition has always been an important part of my life. I used to write a lot of incidental music for plays and theatrical stuff generally when I was much younger in order to pay the rent, and I've written a few film scores, but mainly stuff for my own pleasure. I suppose the first major composition that I ever wrote was at Oxford in about 1958, and I had never heard it played until recently. It was played by the Brindisi Quartet, and I must say I was very nervous. I'm very much a mixture of people, you know. There's part of me that loves to be with people, there's part of me that doesn't. There's part of me that wants to be isolated, parts of me that get very sad at being isolated. I can rattle around this house for a week at a time and feel very sad and lonely. I first started psychotherapy in 1964, my last year in Beyond the Fringe in New York. I had been trying to thresh out the meaning of life. I don't think that I would have functioned as well as I do now without psychotherapy.
In 1979, I had cast a film called 10, and we were literally down to the wire getting ready to shoot. And our leading man walked out. A major catastrophe, and I was desperate. I couldn't come up with a leading man that easily. And I went off to group therapy one night, all ready to take over and take the 2 hours and really just complain for Blake Edwards. And I know Dudley won't mind because the story is fairly well known by now, to say that Dudley was in the group with me. And I kept looking at him, and I'd been seeing him week after week, and he had, to some degree, irked me week after week. because of his obvious appeal to women in the group. And they'd call him Cuddly Dudley and all sorts of endearing little things that made me envy and want to strangle at the same time.
I think the first session I said, well, I love your work, Blake, I'm an actor, but I don't want that to influence anything. And I didn't. I really would have felt very embarrassed to have felt that he was, you know, suddenly thinking I was performing for him. But anyway, I laid out on the carpet all my troubles and woes and basically said, well, what do I do with them? And I think the people present there were regaled for at least 3 weeks with me saying what I felt I should be doing and so forth.
Together with my my group observation, collectively, all of those things made me suddenly get up, go over to Dudley, right in the middle of the group, and grab him and say, "Come with me." And we went outside, and I said, "Would you like to be in a movie?"
I came in with an amazing lot of publicity from Bo Derek, who seemed to be on every cover of every magazine in the world ever printed. And so I became, by osmosis, I guess, to a certain extent, famous through that film.
I had been scantily clad before, I think, I had done a picture when I was younger. It never bothered me. I was brought up on the beaches in California with bikinis and things, so whether you had a little bikini or nothing, it didn't bother me very much. But I think that Dudley was a little self-conscious, but he was very sweet, and it made it very easy. He was very dear about it all, and I hope that I purposely tried to make it as casual as possible, so as not to make him more nervous.
Dudley had a birth defect. He's got a club foot. He's got a bad leg. And although he covers it very well, and he can run well, and certainly you don't see it when he walks, I had occasion where Dudley really had to totally disrobe in 10. And I thought, oh my God, in front of all of these people.
There was one scene where all of the extras, the people around in the scene, were actually from porno movies, so they had no problems with taking clothes off. Not at all.
And after giving it much consideration, I went over to Dudley and I said, "Look, Dudley, I have a problem here. Maybe you can help me solve it." And I no sooner explained the problem, he just dropped his pants and just walked around. And I almost got a tear in my eye. I thought it was so courageous that Dudley did that remarkable thing. He certainly left me with great admiration as he strolled away with these two beauties.